Let's face it, the samurai and the Vikings could never have met in real history. They lived centuries apart, separated by vast oceans and entirely different cultures. The samurai of Japan followed strict discipline, honor, and precision. Meanwhile, the Vikings from the cold north thrived on chaos, raw strength, and fearless exploration. On paper, these two worlds were never meant to collide. But imagine, just for a second, if time bent the rules. If a Viking ship, caught in a violent storm, was thrown across the sea and ended up on the shores of feudal Japan. Two powerful forces, both defined by honor but expressed in completely opposite ways, suddenly standing face to face. This is what might have happened if the impossible ever became real.
The morning it happened, the sea mist clung to the shore like an omen. Japanese fishermen saw shapes in the fog, massive, hulking figures dragging wooden beasts with dragon heads. At first, they thought it was a ghost story come to life, but when the shapes grew clearer and the sound of shouting echoed across the waves, it was no ghost. The Vikings had landed. Their longships groaned against the sand, their axes glinting under the rising sun. The villagers ran, bells rang, and word spread fast through the hills. Strangers from another world had arrived.
Meanwhile, the nearest samurai garrison was already on alert. Reports of giant red-haired warriors storming the coast reached the local lord, who immediately ordered an investigation. A group of samurai rode out, their armor clattering rhythmically, banners fluttering behind them. To them, honor meant confronting the unknown head-on. To the Vikings, it meant surviving whatever gods threw their way. Both sides, in their own way, were walking into legend.
When they finally met, it was like watching two elements collide, fire and water, chaos and control. The Vikings shouted battle cries that could shake the air itself, while the samurai stood silent, unreadable behind their masks. The tension was almost physical. Then one Viking stepped forward, slammed his axe into the ground, and laughed, a booming sound that echoed through the fields. The samurai leader bowed slightly, hand on his sword. The calm before the storm had officially ended.
The clash was brutal, but beautiful in its own way. The Vikings fought like a wave, heavy, fast, impossible to stop once in motion. The samurai countered with precision, turning every attack into a chance to strike back. Arrows whistled, swords flashed, shields cracked. For every Viking that fell, another roared in fury. For every samurai wounded, a comrade filled the space without hesitation. This wasn't just a fight, it was two philosophies arguing through steel.
Still, Japan gave the samurai an edge. They knew the land, the terrain, the rhythm of their home. The Vikings were strong, but they were guests on unfamiliar soil. Mud clung to their boots, bamboo forests confused their movements. Yet even then, they refused to back down, turning the very trees into cover, adapting like warriors born for any world. By midday, both sides had reached a strange kind of respect. The samurai saw in the Vikings a raw courage that ignored pain. The Vikings, in turn, admired the samurai's discipline, the calm deadliness behind each move. At one point, they even paused mid-battle, panting, staring at each other, both realizing just how stubborn the other was. Then, naturally, they went right back to trying to kill each other. Somewhere in the chaos, a Viking commander laughed between swings. "You fight with honor," he shouted. The samurai nodded, replying in broken words, "So do you." For a brief moment, war felt like conversation, a violent mutual understanding born from the same desire, to fight well and die with dignity.
As the sun dipped behind the mountains, exhaustion began to weigh heavier than steel. Both armies slowed, their weapons dull, their breaths ragged. Neither had truly won, but both knew they had survived something worth remembering. For once, there was silence, a rare peace born not from treaties, but from mutual exhaustion and respect.
The Vikings returned to their ship, battered but grinning. The samurai watched from the cliffs, not chasing, not retreating, just observing, as warriors do. Maybe they both understood that victory didn't always mean survival. Sometimes the real win was earning respect from someone the gods never intended you to meet.
If this impossible battle ever truly happened, history would have called it madness. But between madness and legend, there is a fine line. And sometimes that's where the best stories live. After all, whether with axes or katanas, courage speaks the same language.